Welcome to the City of Caldwell podcast. We have Joey Palmer with us, Assistant Superintendent of Vallivue School District. Joey, thank you for joining us, and why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks for reaching out. I guess Joey in a nutshell is I love serving the community. I'm very grateful to be in the position I'm in and getting to do what I love the most, which is working with kids and supporting professionals who serve kids. It's a dream job, really, and I love it. So I'm in a safe space right now with a fellow Californian, although I've been here 18 years now, so I feel like I'm a legit Idahoan at this point. I've got 2 kids here, but I did grow up in California, was all over California, San Jose area, the Fresno area, the Long Beach, Huntington Beach area. Did my college time there. Grew up in a family that was probably not your Leave It to Beaver cookie cutter family. It was pretty dysfunctional, broken household, divorced parents, a lot of alcoholism, drug abuse, not by me. I was one of the lucky ones. I was the youngest in the family, but it definitely had its consequences, unfortunately. I lost a sister to suicide when she was about to turn 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And my other siblings are doing better, but they had their time struggling with that stuff too. And then I met a beautiful, wonderful woman in college, and we wanted to get married, but I said, there's no way we can get married, can't afford it. I'm paying $675 for half a bedroom in Huntington Beach. And she came up to Idaho, Caldwell specifically, because her parents moved back here because they're Caldwell natives. And she came back and she said, how about we get married and move to Caldwell, Idaho, because I found a brand new townhouse, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single car garage for $450. And that just didn't compute. Who can live for $450 in a mansion like that,
Right.
And came up and visited Caldwell, Idaho, and it was true. And my wife got a great job as a graphic designer with a company she's still with right now. And I decided to break off what my family was doing. Eventually they got their act together and cleaned up, and then were successful in the broker, real estate, and loan officer and flipping houses kind of business. And they were making a lot of money. And I said, I want to be a teacher. And so they're making like $300,000 a year. And I'm like, I want to make $27,000, $28,000 a year. They all thought I was a fool for doing it, but I went for it and I loved it. I mean, there's nothing better than working with kids. I'm fully convinced that's the most important job that there is to any professional. I've been completely fulfilled doing that. And here I am now. 2 kiddos. They're both in the public school system in Vallivue, and I get to do what I'm doing now, so it's a good life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on all that and making it to where you are. So how does somebody become the assistant superintendent, going from teacher to where you are?
Yeah, honestly, this, I would say, was by accident. It's funny because I started 2 years teaching at Napa Christian High School, English teacher, and it's a great place. It's a wonderful, wonderful school, but I didn't really feel like I was needed there. I couldn't really relate to my students and the families that were going there. They all seemed to come from very strong families that had good values in place, and kind of felt like a fish out of water because, like I shared with you, I had a totally different experience growing up with my family. And so I wanted to try public education. My first public education gig was teaching English at Vallivue Middle School, and totally different vibe there, I will say. And I was teaching remedial literacy skills for kids who struggled reading, even as 7th and 8th graders. And so I was teaching them, and what I found out was the majority of my students came from Spanish-speaking homes, and they couldn't communicate with me, and I couldn't communicate with them whenever I tried to reach out to families to talk about how we could support their children. And so I decided, you know what, this is fun. I really feel needed, and I'm going to learn Spanish. And so Spanish has been a hobby of mine for 18 years now, and learned the language, was able to connect with families that way. And I wanted to dive deeper. How could I serve even better? And then Vallivue opened up an alternative middle school, and I joined that school and helped them start that school. And I was there for 6 years. Naturally, when you're in a smaller environment, everyone has to be a leader, because you're not just a teacher. You're like a quasi-counselor. You're like a quasi-principal, all hands on deck kind of a thing. And so from that, I got to experience all the different facets of making sure our school is well-rounded to meet the needs of our children. And I thought, wow, this is really great too. I love doing all of this. And so I went to school, BSU, to get my admin degree. And I did a couple summer schools, leading summer school as admin there. And I loved that too. But then it was funny. It's funny because after I graduated and got my admin degree, I had a conversation with my wife and I apologized to her. And I said, I just got done spending thousands of dollars and 2 years worth of our time investing in this master's degree to be a principal someday. And I'm so at peace and content teaching in the classroom that I don't think I'm going to apply for any admin jobs. I think I'm just going to teach and do that until I retire. I think it was like within that week that my principal at that school said, Joey, there's a position at the district office open for a director and you should apply for it. And I said, no way. I will feel like a fool if I do that. I've never led a school. I've only done summer school admin experience. And she said, no, you definitely need to do it. Kind of like read between the lines. You're not saying no to this. So I humored her. I went and applied for the position. And it was funny too, because I remember sitting in the waiting room in this office here, waiting for my turn to have an interview. And all of a sudden I felt sweaty and like sick to my stomach. I was like, oh no, I think I have the flu, right before an interview. That's terrible. And then the gentleman that was interviewing before me came out, and when he opened up the door, it was just like a flood of laughter coming out of that room. And he was laughing, he looked like he had like a great corduroy kind of jacket on, and he even had a briefcase. And he just looked, I was like, this guy got the job. Everyone was laughing in there. He's coming out looking like the man. And here's Joey, my turn, and I'm feeling like I'm going to die, Turns out I didn't have the flu. I was just a nervous wreck.
Right.
So went in, and my goal was to make it as hard as possible for them to say no to me in the interview. And I think I did pretty good because I went home and my wife and I said, all right, interview's over. Let's go relax now and celebrate whether you got the job or not. And we're heading out to go to Panda Express for dinner. And it was within the hour after the interview, I got the phone call, and Pat Charlton, the superintendent at the time, offered me the job. And I couldn't believe it. So I ordered double portions at Panda Express that night to celebrate big time.
Oh, that's a great way to celebrate. Yeah.
Yeah. And then being a director here for 7 years, I'm going into my 8th year now. For 7 years, just doing my best to serve in however the district needs me, I think is probably what helped prove to the powers that be that I'm in it for the right reasons, I believe. And then I went back to school again to get what they call an educational specialist degree. And I got that because the superintendent from another district, on a conversation that we were just having, said he would have never hired me. He said he would have never even looked at my application because of my lack of experience. And so for the past 3 or 4 years working here as a director, I had that imposter syndrome weighing me down, So I thought, I know how to fix that. I'll get another degree. So I went back to school, and that happens to be the degree that allows you to be superintendent if you want to someday. So it's not like I was ever thinking to myself, I'm going to be superintendent. I'm going to land that job. I got that degree to kind of assuage myself of that imposter syndrome. And then things just kind of shake out the way they shake out. People retire, people move on. And when they look around, they see who's the person qualified on paper and hopefully is the right type of character to be in the position. I guess people saw me as that person, and very grateful that they see me that way, and thankful that I feel like I have the bandwidth to be able to serve in that capacity. So that's how it shook out for me. I don't know what the normal superintendent journey is. But like I said, I'm just assistant superintendent. And that's how my story played out.
Cool.
Sorry, I'm feeling pretty long-winded.
No, that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. One question I have for you as you were talking is, what are some nuanced things as a teacher and or from the district level? And it doesn't have to necessarily be a Vallivue thing, but just as a teacher, you're like, man, I wish people knew this, about being a teacher,
Right.
and or about, being in the district office kind of thing. Because I feel like sometimes people, not just with Vallivue, but in general, people seem to be pretty critical
Yes.
of public education or schools in
Yeah.
general, other teachers. But as a teacher, maybe what are some things that you wish students and or families knew about being a teacher?
Oh my goodness, I love that question. Yeah, and I think the reason why I appreciate that question too is because I think baked into that question is the aspect of empathy. Because I know in public education, it is so easy to be frustrated with the system. It's like shooting fish in the barrel. It's just too easy. When you have an institution that is built to serve the community, and in the community there's a variety of needs and a variety of opinions, and then you're also constrained by red tapes on how you can spend money and policies and the Constitution really on how you can function as a community, obviously that's going to bring people to loggerheads all the time. And to answer your question, what I would desire that people would always keep on the forefront of their minds is that the teachers and the counselors and the classified staff and the janitors and the food service and the superintendents in public education are truly there to serve. They're not there to make it, that mighty dollar. We love kids. That's the bottom line. We love your kids and we want the best for them. And we know the future of our country depends on how well we serve their kids in their here and now. And so with that being the case, it is an overwhelming job. And as a teacher, when I was in the classroom, there were days that I would come home and I'm on fire. And I'm like telling my wife, I'm an amazing teacher. You can't believe what I did for the kids. And they were so engaged and it was great. And I saw the light bulbs go off. And I heard what they want for their future based on helping them navigate all the opportunities that they have and help them really buy into their education and their time with me in the classroom. But then other days you'd come home and you're just like, honey, wife, right? I think I need to get another job. I think I should be selling cell phones at Verizon, instead, because I looked at the test scores and they're not so hot, or I just found out that my student's family went through XYZ, just terrible things, or I had to report something because things looked a little fishy and it turns out it was true. That stuff weighs on you. And then also when you're in the classroom and you have 30, sometimes 35 kids, and each kid has a different set of needs, and your job is to teach them the content so that way they can be the best writer or a good mathematician so they're not taken advantage someday by reading something that seems a little sneaky or someone's doing funky math with them on a contract they're about to sign. How do you do that whenever the kids are at different development levels, have different things going on in their life that's weighing them down, and yet you have your objective as a teacher to do your job and make sure they have the skills to be ready for the real world? And sometimes you feel like you fall short a lot of days. So to answer your question, I wish people who aren't in education, I wish they would keep in mind that the teacher's job is almost impossible. So the fact that teachers show up every day and they do the best they can, I think we just need to keep that in our hearts. It's almost like whenever I think about police officers, it's the same thing. They have hard jobs. We have to support that blue line. Fire department too, as well. Educators as well. We're nothing without our police department, fire department, our teachers. So all that to say, there's plenty to complain about. But there's always the opportunity that I hope people prioritize to support educators, for sure.
It gives them grace because they're people too, right?
Absolutely.
So, you say are some challenging things. What are some challenges that the district faces, and what are some wins and some great things that's going on?
These are great questions. Big challenge is the growth in our neck of the woods. We get phone calls quite often, and I'm sure you see it too at the city level. And if people don't already know it, Valley View's in Napa and Caldwell school districts. We all know Napa school district's not growing much. In fact, their enrollment's decreasing a little bit. Caldwell, they're landlocked, so there's not a whole lot of development for new subdivisions coming there. But Valley View is wide open spaces, ripe for developers to build their subdivisions. And they're being approved, and we have a lot more growth than we've been able to keep up with. So that's a challenge, trying to make sure our classroom sizes are reasonable so that way we don't overwhelm our teachers with a tsunami of students every year, And I think the wins that we have is our Valley View voters are supportive of education, which is fantastic, because without them supporting the supplemental levy, we wouldn't be able to hire the extra teachers that we need to make sure class sizes are reasonable. So thank you to all the voters that go out and vote. And then also, again, it's because of the voters who see that our buildings aren't able to accommodate the growth that's coming. They came out and they voted in support of the bond. And so now we can build 2 elementary schools, one in Nampa and one in Caldwell. And we can actually give the appropriate buildings that are necessary to educate the future generations that are to come in our district.
And I think you mentioned something about a high school also coming online hopefully soon, maybe, or?
Yeah. So the projection is that we might need a high school within 10 years or less. Kind of give you a pulse on that with some data. Ridgeview High School was built 6 or 7 years ago, and they were built for 1,800 students, and they're knocking on the door of 1,800. I think they've got like 1,650 right now. Valley View High School, they're not as overcrowded. They're built for 1,800, and I think they've got about 1,250, 1,300 students. But when you look at 10 years down the line and you see the growth on the south side of the district, especially on the east side of the district, and once the west side of the district gets going, it's going to be gangbusters out there soon too. There's going to be a lot of development out there. We know we're going to need a third high school, probably another building to hold about 1,800 students, so that way we can take care of our high school kiddos too in the future. So in the bond that last passed, we've got money to purchase that land. Now the challenge is, the struggle is finding land, about 60 acres, that would be appropriate to build that third high school. So currently, it's hard to find any land on the east side of the district because most of that land is already owned by developers who aren't interested in selling to the school district. They're interested in developing and making their living off of that. On the south side of the school district, there's opportunities there, although not ideal. And even though it's not where we need it right now, maybe there's some opportunities on the west side of the school district and we get land there. So we're exploring all of those opportunities to see what would make sense in the long term.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some things on the forefront of your mind as far as where the district's going and maybe other things that you wanted to plug? For example, I think there were some programs within the district that you wanted to highlight. Yeah,
where the district is growing. To piggyback on the answer I just gave you about the challenges of being a growing district, I think what makes Valley View great, and what I love about Valley View in my time with it, 15 years now I think, 15 years, is that even though we're a growing district and we're getting to a big district, one of the largest districts in the state, we still have that small family, hometown feel. I know for myself as a leader, I keep that on my mind. How do we keep that family feel within the Valley View School District? Because that's what I love about it, and that's what keeps me here. And I want to make sure that we don't undermine ourselves and lose our identity and our culture that way. And then a program I'd love to plug, we've invested in this program for about 10 years now, over 10 years, called AVID. It's called Advancement via Individual Determination. And it's really a philosophy where we help students realize the untapped potential that they have within themselves to do great things after they graduate. In other words, in Valley View, we're not satisfied with just a GED and a high school diploma. We want our kids to have their eyes on the big prize, and that's going and getting a legitimate trade at a trade school, or going to college and getting a fantastic degree in something that they would find fulfillment in for the rest of their life. But what we find is we have many students that come from families who haven't gone and gotten that trade or gone to a university and got that degree. So how do we help them as a district navigate the whole, I'm going to say labyrinth really, of making sure that you can get scholarships, that you know how to apply to certain schools, and that you know what to do once you're at that university, and making sure that they have the skill set to be ready to go through university from freshman to senior year and graduate and get that job. And so we've seen the results where we have a lot of kids who've gone through the AVID program, and again, they're students that come from families that usually these students are the first ones to graduate from, or to go to college and then graduate from college. And a lot of times, once they get admitted into college and through their university years, we hire them back to the Vallivue School District to serve as tutors to our current AVID students in high school, to show them, hey, AVID worked for me. I'm living and breathing it right now. I'm in university. You can too. And in fact, I'm here tutoring you and helping you get those skills to be able to do what I'm doing right now. So it's a beautiful cycle where we get kids prepared to go to college. They're in college, and once they're in college, they're back in the school district giving back to help the next generation of kids go to college and do that. And it's not just college, it's trade school too.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about or bring up?
Let's see here. All I can really say is I'm just grateful to be part of a district, like I said, that's got that family feel, even though we're growing. And we appreciate our voters who value education, and they've been consistent in passing bonds and levies. They see it as a need. They know that we're not just going out buying Rolls Royces for teachers, that those dollars are being invested directly towards their children.
Great. Well, Joey, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to talk to us and
My
just get to know who you are and what's going on at the district level.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.